So, Larissa.
Yes.
Hofmann.
Hofmann is how you say, Larissa Hofmann.
So where did you grow up?
I grew up in the south of Germany. It's quite remote, quite small. The town I grew up in doesn't have a train station. It was always quite long bus journeys to school. I think my first connection to images was when I walked down the corridors of my primary school for the first time. I saw all these different paintings outside the different classrooms, and I remember liking the different color combinations. Some I felt really drawn to. And I remember being quite intrigued by how different they all looked, even though they were given the same task. Berlin, in a way, is like, I guess just the feeling was very different to like the south where I grew up, where things are much more conservative. It was definitely a place that I did want to live when I was finished with school. The feeling was quite free. The influences it has in the city, whereas the music or like the art scene or just like the going out scene even, like I think those things definitely play into people's inspiration in a way, and I think it's more a feeling rather than a certain style. And I think that is kind of maybe where Berlin always stands with me or resonates with me. When I first picked up a camera, I would say there's maybe two moments that I remember. One was when I quite consciously picked up a camera for the first time in my life. It was on a school trip when I think I was like 9 or 10 or something. And we went to the mountains. I convinced my mom that I can take a camera. She showed me how to load the film, and it allowed me to see things in my own way. I could give it my own little narrative. We went to this cave. In Germany, you say Bernstein. Bernstein is the word for the orange stone, the amber. I think I photographed one whole roll of film. Couldn't wait to get this film back, and when we got it back, they were all out of focus. It was just orange, blurry. It's because I didn't know that, like you couldn't maybe go closer than 90 centimeters or something to the actual object. The second time, I would say. And I wish I had a more romantic answer for you, but it really is Instagram. Deciding, like what you want to put out in the world, especially when I was modeling and people were taking pictures of me. I enjoyed that I had greater agency over what I was putting on my own Instagram. And that's also how I first was approached by a few people that asked me if I wanted to shoot something for them. I think the main difference between modeling and photography for me personally is, as a model, I always felt a little bit awkward. Like it didn't feel like it came very naturally to me. In your early 20s, when you're finding yourself, finding what you like, I thought maybe that is something I liked. But the more I did it, I felt like there was more of a disconnect between me and the job in itself. When I then started with photography, I didn't have to think about it that much. It just felt very organic. In the end, it comes down to a feeling, and to me, photography feels very natural. What modeling taught me is not to take things personally, as hard as it is, especially when it's literally about your appearance, about your body, about how you look, and especially when you're like 18, 19, 20, it's such a vulnerable age as well. And I think I probably didn't manage that quite as well as I would have liked to. But I think now that's definitely something that I've learned, I think when jobs don't work out, it most likely doesn't have anything to do with who you are as a person. That is a very fast-paced industry, so it's almost impossible to try and please everybody and keep up with everything. So I think it's important to do the projects and jobs that you believe in. So what do we do now? Move around?
That's nice. As someone who's self-taught, what was the hardest hurdle to understand about creating an image?
The bigger hurdle for me was the actual decision to quit modeling and to give photography a shot. I think this thought that it might not work out has crossed my mind. I took the risk, and I'm glad able to trust my gut. When I photograph someone, I always try to leave enough room for their own interpretation, because I kind of want to see what they do with it. And I also don't want to project something onto them. I feel like you need to be able to allow the space for them to also be themselves within the role. A lot of the time, that means also you have to give up a bit of control. I think that's really beautiful. Like, I don't think it's just about how someone looks, how their body looks. It's deeper than that. Also, I want to show people in their real representation without objectifying. Towards the end of my modeling years, I got to work with Peter Lindbergh. When the shoot was over, we sat down and we had a beer, and he showed me some of his prints, some stuff from the 90s and some Pina Bausch he showed me. We talked about it and we talked a lot. And all I kept thinking is how incredible it is that this guy who's done thousands of shoots, has shot the most incredible people, has seen so much, done so much, yet he felt so present and so there in this moment. It was unmatched how honest it felt. The advice that I took from this is being able to stay true to yourself is something that's really desirable. I think as hard as it sometimes can be, try to follow your own path. Try to tune out all the outside noise. And there can be a lot in this industry. And try not to get too hung up on what others are doing. Collect a lot of inspiration, to see a lot, to research a lot, to experience a lot, and to make it your own. In general, I think it's really important to try and stay humble and to respect others and yourself. Being able to look in the mirror and recognize yourself at the end of the day, I think that's important, because success doesn't really mean much if you can't sit with yourself contently. Should I say it again? Joe, how did it sound to you? Did you listen?
I zoned out for a second.